Welcome, everyone, to the Wednesdays at 1 show. So excited to have all of you here today. I say this every week, and I mean it every week, but this week I really mean it. I have an incredible guest here. And so for those of you who are entrepreneurs or have dreamed of being an entrepreneur or have been thinking about it, or maybe, in the heart of the pandemic, you thought about doing some different things with your life. This is someone that you're going to want to talk to. Her name is Ande Lyons. She is a startup guru and someone who has helped me personally in my startup life. I always feel better after I've spoken to Ande. I feel better about what I'm doing as a business owner. I feel better about who I'm trying to reach, how I'm trying to reach them, and the things that are most important to me business-wise. So I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to hear Ande today and see Ande. So Ande, welcome. How are you, lady?
I am so impressed. You had applause audio with that. Thank you, Eric, for having me on your Wednesdays at 1 show. This is so exciting.
Well, let me just tell you, that wasn't applause audio. That was an actual studio audience I have in here. When people heard that you were going to be on this show, people started to flock to my home studio here. I had to set up a little reception area. So that was live applause. I hope you believe that.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Absolutely. I'm so delighted to share this hour with you.
Well, I want people to know a little bit about your backstory, but before we do that, I want everybody to pay attention to what we have in my lower ticker, right? Ande does a live show herself every week, twice a week, every Tuesday and every Friday at 1 p.m. And she's on all of the platforms, right? From LinkedIn to Periscope to Facebook to Twitch to YouTube. She's everywhere, and you can catch her Andelicious advice twice a week on those platforms at 1 p.m. Eastern. So I'm going to leave that up for a little bit because I want people, in case you can't watch the whole show today, you know that you have a chance to catch her. So Ande, I want to start off with your founder story. You're a bit of a founder, a serial founder. And I think that that's something that serves you well every day. But I want the people to know a little bit about your background.
Well, thank you, Eric, for asking me. Let me just go back in the time machine for a second and recall. I always tell people every business I founded was like a stray cat that came to my door, yowling until I let it in. I didn't wake up one day and go, oh, I want to do this, or oh, I'm definitely going to do this. And one of my businesses I said no to for 2 years, just saying. But I'm a non-traditional founder, a non-traditional person in life. And I went into banking after earning my MBA. And I did this not because I was a fit. I had to do some fancy footwork to get hired by a bank because I'm a high risk taker. And banks, they don't hire risk takers. But I lasted 3 years. I wanted to learn how to crunch numbers in every single industry, understand all the financial analysis on the industry, and I wanted to learn how bankers thought. after that, I started birthing babies and birthing businesses. So it was a lot of fun. The first business I did was helping a founder raise money. Now, maybe you guys know the Aerobed. Well, that came out in the early 1990s, and the founder had purchased the patent, but he needed to raise money. So that was my first, adventure and being sort of a solopreneur founder. And then in 1998, I was breastfeeding one baby and chasing a 3-year-old toddler around the house when my husband and I launched a .com business. And it was providing entertainment content to the college market. Okay, so we were doing it on cable, but we were setting it up to do it online. And so we were doing early YouTube and Facebook to over 250 college campuses around the country. And we built it up, and we had 8 million in VC money and employed over almost 100 employees. And then in August of 2000, we started seeing the .com industry going down, and we went down right with it. We had another 5 million earmarked to come in, and by a really well-known venture firm at the time. They went under. We never saw that money on top of the 8 million, and we had to downsize, and then we sold for liabilities and assets. So that was challenging. And while I was getting my resume ready for a new, go back to work and all of that, I came up with a recipe. And I thought, well, this is delicious. I'm going to eat it all the time. And I had a friend who said, oh, no, start a food business. How hard could it be? I said, well, I don't know. How hard could it be? All right. So right now I'm just going to tell you, had I known how hard it was going to be, I just would have checked myself into Betty Ford Clinic or something. Anything with a shelf life is really, really hard. And if there are any foodies out there, I know you know what I'm talking about. But it was like, speaking of toddlers, it was running ahead of me. I was barely keeping up on the How to Launch a Food Business book. It took off, and I scaled it nationally in under 24 months because I went into food service. I took one look at the margins for getting on the shelves. I said, oh, hell no. And so I got great angel money. It was phenomenal. And 5 years in, I was getting ready to go what I call the Kellogg cereal route, meaning getting it manufactured big time in the Midwest so we could really go wild and get on all the shelves when many things happened. 2 products got hit really hard. My 2 primary products, maple syrup and almonds, they're agriculturally, they were wiped out, which meant there went my margin. And then, believe it or not, my manufacturing facility got hit by lightning and shut down completely. And kind of another interesting moment was the packaging plant an hour away that took care of packaging all the granola up. It got hit by that same storm, not as badly, but lightning struck twice. And
Wow.
It all came to a screeching halt. Could I have pressed on? Maybe, but the toll it would have taken on me and my family was too great. I had to shut it down. And I'll tell you, I cried for months. It broke my heart. I was the chief executive goddess. Who wouldn't want to do that? I had a divinely delicious product, branded beautifully. And people loved it. And when I closed down, folks called me from all over the country. No, you can't. And I was like, I am. And I want to tell folks who are raising capital, it's really scary when you raise other people's money. Look what we lost, over 8 million for folks with our company back in 1998 to 2000. Same thing with the angel. It's really, really hard. But my angel investor was so amazing. He said to me, and this is how angels often think. They won't say this out loud, but you know what? They're in it for the experience with you, for the possibility, not the guarantee. So at the end, he said, Andy, even knowing this was going to be the outcome, going into it, I still would have put money into this deal. It was an amazing ride.
Could you say that one more time? The possibility, not the guarantee, because that's something I think people really need to pay attention to.
Right. Well, when you are launching a business, there's 0 guarantees. I don't care if every customer in the world just thinks you're the bee's knees. I don't care how much money you have behind you. Look what happened to Quibi, $1.8 billion. They didn't make it. Same thing with what you're doing. There's no guarantee, but ooh, the possibility. That's why you do it. Yes, it was an Andelicious moment. Nicely done, Eric.
Well, I wanted you to kind of put a little bow on that, because we're going to talk about other people's businesses, but I thought it was really important that we hear where you're coming from, because you're a resource.
Right.
You have great perspective. You have great experience, and you bring that to bear for the people that you work with and the advice that you dispense. You're not theoretically saying this or that, you've actually lived it. And that's something I think that sets you apart from so many people out there who are gurus or give advice or do all these things. You've actually walked the walk.
And I had two other businesses that bootstrapped, or as I say, charming personality built by. But it's important to remember, and I can go into my own insecurities about, well, I don't have that successful exit. Yeah, everybody talks about, oh, I have that successful exit. Yay, I love that for them. I just bring success, because if you can launch a product or service and sell it again and again and create a sustainable and profitable business with it, you're a winner no matter what happens. Okay. That is a really hard thing to do for however long it lasts. And I also believe, Eric, some businesses have their own soul cycle, right? They have a purpose to come on, do their thing, and be done and be complete. And I know sometimes you want to be building for legacy. I really appreciate that. But, you might get bought by a bigger company, so you got to be ready for that. So many different outcomes, but the possibility, so delicious.
I want to say quickly hello to Laura. Laura is such a fantastic person, a person I know because of you, Andy.
Yes.
And she has a phenomenal product, Zaze. It's extra virgin olive oil. And let me just tell you something. I've had this olive oil now, and it is absolutely exquisite. If you care about flavor and taste, and then go beyond that, the story, the backstory, how this product gets into a bottle and gets to your kitchen is an amazing story. And Laura does an incredible job of telling it. And we'll have Laura on someday in a future Wednesdays at 1. But I'm just so glad that you're in here and you're
Hi,
saying,
Laura.
and that's a great reminder, guys. If you're watching, if you have a question about entrepreneurship, if you have a question about raising funds, if you have a question about starting, or wherever you are in the startup cycle, Andy is your woman. She knows it all. She tells it all, and she's Andelicious on top of all of that. So,
and I've been mentoring startups now for 6 years, I think, maybe 7. So in accelerator programs, as well as with clients. And I co-host a monthly pitch event here in Boston called Founders Live Boston.
That is correct. Andy, you do so much that I almost forgot about our quarterly, your quarterly Founders Live Boston event. Now, I've participated a little bit, but really, it's your baby. You run that thing. Tell the people a little bit about Founders Live Boston.
Oh, it's a phenomenal pitch event. And I tell founders everywhere, whether you're raising money or not, enter a pitch event. Get up in front of folks and pitch your business. It helps you hone in on what your business is about, and you get feedback. And a lot of times the judges are investors or people with really strong industry experience in your industry. You're going to get free advice from them by pitching in front of them. They may see a hole that you needed filled, or a resource that you needed for your business to go to the next level. So pitch away. So Boston Founders Live, we are part of the Founders Live international platform. It's in over 50, 60 countries, and it's a for us, it was a monthly pitch event for the first year and a half, and then COVID hit, but we still did it monthly for most of 2020. And what happens is 5 featured founders have 99 seconds to pitch their business. Can you imagine that? It's like a few tweets worth of information you've got to put down into 99 seconds, take people right through the salient points. And each featured founder here in our greater Boston area, they get 5,000 in AWS services, and they get 3,000 in Google, and the winner gets an additional $10,000 worth of AWS services, which is really important. If you have a website, you're doing hosting, you're doing any tech dev, really, really important. And at the same time, for my co-host, Andy Jack, and I, it's a wonderful way to give back to the community. We prepare these founders to pitch, and, we bring in the experts. We find all the ways to make it work. It's really, really wonderful and rewarding. And I do miss being on the 20th floor of 50 Milk Street in downtown Boston with the beautiful views, having this pitch deck every month. But we somehow have moved forward and still created value for our local startup community.
Well, yes. Shout out to CIC, right? Who provides those incredible facilities. And it's always a great, great time for founders and others. The one thing you didn't mention that the winner gets is they get a free 30-minute session with me as part of their winners package, which is something that's amazing because I love the energy of those founders, aspiring founders. They're coming off the high of a Founders Live Boston win, and I get to work with them, kind of help them to shape their message. It's not a lot I can do in 30 minutes, so it's really kind of down and dirty, but I give them what I can in 30 minutes, and sometimes we continue to work beyond that. But that's just another little piece of what they get when they win Founders Live Boston.
I talk about this all the time on my show, how important it is to be ready when the mic is put in your face. You need to be media prepared as a founder. You're the one carrying the vision and the mission of your organization.
100%. You are now preaching to my choir, right? That's something that I say all the time. I want to make sure I say hello to my friend Sean Shoemate. Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Andy. It's morning in Las Vegas, so we always appreciate Sean coming in. Thank you so much, my man. Great to see you here. I know you work with Black businesses in Las Vegas, and you actually turned me on to a group there. So I'm hoping that you will share this with them or invite them to tune in today too, because one of the things that we hadn't touched on, and I wanted to make sure that people knew, is that Andy has a particular specialty. Her knowledge is universal. Her advice is impeccable. But Andy has chosen to focus a lot of the work she does, particularly on minority women of color, and other marginalized populations. So I want to ask you, how did that happen? Why did that happen? And why is that so important to you?
Well, it's twofold. One, I, as a woman, female founder, know what it's like to struggle and be asked what we call preventative questions versus the pro questions. But I also have helped many female founders with the WeBank application, which is the gold standard for getting certified as a minority-owned business, women-owned business specifically. And part of that was understanding not enough amplification going on. Then I combined that with, I participated in Founder Jim's Money Magnet, which is this wonderful marketing program. They also have a fundraising program. They're on their 16th cohort, I think, and have helped founders raise up to over $83 million. They're amazing. But it was really after George Floyd and really hearing more and more about the heartache and what's really been going on, more uncovered for our BIPOC and LGBTQ as well population. And as I looked around at many of the platforms that do a wonderful job sharing, how I built it, right? Conversations on podcasts, on live streams like mine, I noticed that there was not enough amplification for female, BIPOC, and LGBTQ founders. And I wanted to showcase, light up, and add a lift to those founders who are working so hard. And just here in Boston, Eric, you can hear like, well, we'd give those contracts to a minority vendor, but we don't know where to find them. What? You can fill up the conference center in Boston with all the minority vendors. It is, dissolving that unconscious bias. So I became very focused on this lane to amplify. And with all due respect to the delicious white-skinned men in my life who I love to pieces, this is an opportunity to amplify those founders who are working under some pretty tough bias, whether they're raising money, getting customers, et cetera. So I wanted to provide representation. So when you see, these different founders on my show, you're going to say, wow, she's doing it. He's doing it. Oh my gosh, I can do it. Here's how they got through that. Here's how they managed this situation. All right, I can do that with my business.
Yeah. And I have to say that, there's a lot of reasons that I admire and respect you, but that is really right up there, right? This is not something that you had to do. You'd still be able to be in business and do all the things you do in the fantastic way that you do them. This is something that you chose to do. It wasn't a mandate, but something you chose to do on your own. So that just really, I give you so much credit for doing that. And we need more of that. We need people to really apply their expertise to places where it doesn't always reach naturally.
Right.
And so you are doing that on your own. There's no one telling you, there's no one saying, well, we need you to, or we want you to. This is something that there is a need and there is a want, but this is something that you
so
decided
compelled.
to do on your own.
So compelled. And it's part of, my listening and understanding more as well. And also being able to tap into the different industries. It's not just tech founders. It's not just food founders. It's not, it's all types of founders, so that, again, full representation can happen, so that we can see everybody and at different levels, folks. So, somebody might just be a year in. And so the opportunity to come on the show and tell their story, it's a little neat knocking, and a little shaky time for them. But I can help them feel so comfortable and so confident and keep the conversation going. When Jeremy was on the show 3 weeks ago, I think, he said, finally, my family and friends all know what I'm doing. So a lot of times when you give that founder a chance to tell their story, and everybody who's been watching on the sideline going, oh my God, what are they doing? All of a sudden they've got this interview. And they've got someone, with cred who's asking them really tough questions, and they're coming back with the answers, and they know what they're doing because it's their business. It's just a delicious moment.
So let's talk about that for 1 minute, right? You mentioned something that founders go through, but before we do, this is what founders struggle with, right? Being, going down the road alone, not having family or friends understand, wait a minute, what are you doing? So you're quitting your job and you're not making any money right now and you don't have any investors. What is this all about? I know that you liked doing this, or you grew up doing that, or you have a passion or this or that. Now it's a business? Like, I don't understand that. Go out and get yourself a job and maybe do this on the weekends. Talk to people about the lonely path of the entrepreneur, particularly at the beginning.
It's so lonely because only you have in your heart your vision. Only you know what you're trying to bring to the world. And to expect anybody to understand that is really hard, especially your loved ones. I wrote a post about when your loved one isn't an entrepreneur. And it was about when you start getting hate mail from family and friends because you disappeared, or you're so hyper focused on your business. If someone isn't part of the solution, get out of the way. There's so many parts and pieces of the founder journey. A lot of times you're a first time founder. And that's a lot of my audience is first time founders. So they have no idea what's going on. And so not only is the isolation hard and the risks that they're taking hard, because maybe it's a side hustle, maybe they're doing a little part-time work to fund it, or maybe they got fired and this idea bubbled up. Whatever happened to cause them, or one of my guests said, I got angry and then I did this, and the next thing I know, I had a whole organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know how it's all going to come up. But as a first time founder, I want everybody to know, and from watching the show, to not only feel less isolated as they hear founders tell their story. Now, I always ask founders how, when you're sitting there and you're feeling so inadequate and really so many mistakes have happened, you're saying, why bother? And I'm not the right person for this. How did you shift your mindset? It wasn't if that happened. It absolutely happens. Founder doubt is every day. I've heard founders who have been into it for 3 decades and made $1 bajillion, and they still say, I doubt myself all the time. It never goes away, but how do you keep it lessened? So we always get that information from founders. And I also always ask, how has being an entrepreneur, how has this journey served you both professionally and personally? So, we had Ethan, who talked about how it just changed him personally. And so many great moments. And then he said, but professionally, it was so hard because people just said to me, no, you can't, you're Black, you're this, you're that. They just, no way are you that experienced. I mean, my gosh, did he go through heck? So I say all of that because no matter what happens on your founder journey, and really take this in, no matter what happens, because we talked about the possibility, not the guarantee, you will always come out the other side an extraordinary human being, because it is 110% the most valuable personal and professional development program out there. You're lifting muscles you never knew you had. You had to figure out things that you had no idea about. You might be bringing a specialty, right? Your specific expertise to the business, but more often than not, you're having to figure stuff out. Customer acquisition costs, how do I fund all of this? One of my favorite stories is Gail Goodman. She was part of the team that founded Constant Contact. And she was like one of the original on her own. And she said, in the beginning, now think about this. She took that company public and she sold it for $1 billion. But in the early year, when she finally had to open an office, she goes, how do I pay rent? How do I rent an office? How do I hire an accountant? She knew nothing.
Can you imagine?
So, she had to learn all that.
And speaking of knowing nothing, I know that even a year ago at this time, I had never even heard of StreamYard, which is the platform we're on today. And you found it and you were going to use it for Founders Live Boston. That was my first introduction.
Yeah.
And I remember being on one of those first streams with you when we were testing everything out.
So good to have you. And
fast forward, StreamYard just sold for $250 million. What a startup story. But right. I say that because I want people to understand the realities of this startup life. The chances that you're going to sell your business eventually down the line for $250 million is, I won't say it's unlikely, but if that's why you're in your business, the chances are you're probably not going to get there. If you do the work and you are true to it and you build the blocks block by block, and and not every day is rainbows and lollipops. We know that. I've talked to you many a times, particularly this year or this last year in the pandemic, where it's like, Andy, I'm not really sure what's going to happen. Right? I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't know what's around the next bend, but I'm still willing to stay on the road. And as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you're going to be faced with some of those, what I call, come to Jesus moments. Are we really going forward? Can we go forward? How do we go forward? And that's when you sort of learn earn your stripes as a entrepreneur.
Right. And I always tell my audience, 1 minute you're drinking the champagne or popping the champagne, the next minute you're crying into it. And that can happen
Yes.
several times during the day. The other thing that we have to really be careful about as founders, okay, everyone, is to not compare yourself to all the other founders out there, to all the
Yes.
mythologies of the big wins that are out there.
Yes.
And also, we have
Yes.
to really own what is happiness for us. Gary Vee, if you follow him, he's totally into the startup life. He said, I'd rather be happy in a Toyota than crying in a Ferrari. You've got to know, if you're happy at the 60K revenue a year and you're feeding your family, you are a bona fide founder. You are rocking the world. If you want to feed your community, so you want to grow to maybe 250,000, $500,000 a year in revenue, and you've got some employees locally, yes. And if you want to be like Invisaware, who's going to take over the world in safety jewelry, yay. Okay. Just know what makes you happy. And, push the envelope, and you may find, because people are always talking about, I want to get up to 6 figures, 7 figures, 9 figures. It's like, okay, but is that right for you? Those coaches never ask if that's a good fit for who you are and who you be at this time in your life. So please be self-aware as to what's important to you and not get into the glorification of entrepreneurship.
100%. That's fantastic advice. We're actually going to give that one. So I've taken all of these. These are little pieces of Andy's show. And we're going to sort of hit the brakes a little bit because I want to make sure I catch up with all my comments. I also want to make sure that people see that WeBank link. If you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, you'll see it. For some reason, StreamYard's not letting me put it into my my Facebook, and I know why they're not putting it into my Facebook, and that's another story. But I'll tell you why in a minute. But there's that WeBank link, and that's for people that are seeking funding. And
that's to get certified as a woman-owned business, which gets you into supplier diversity programs, which helps you maintain margins and get in doors that you normally can't get into.
And that's why I have you here, Andy, because you know the answers to these things. I'm just a button pusher.
There's no jest about you. You're amazing, Eric. Come on.
Well, speaking of that button pusher, I just want to say the reason I can't post to Facebook is that related to the comment I was saying about StreamYard a year ago, which I had never even heard of at this point. I hadn't heard about it until March of last year. I do some remote producing. I do what we're doing right here for other people into their Facebook live streams or into their YouTube or into their LinkedIn, whatever they have. And so sometimes I have to take my settings and put them into other modes because I'm doing different things. But that's just a perfect example of what it means to be an entrepreneur. I actually earn money on a platform that I had never even heard of. If you would ask me about StreamYard on February 24th, 2020, I would have been like, I don't know what you're talking about. And now I actually earn through StreamYard and some other tools that I've developed over the years to make people's streams really jazzy. And and part of my gratitude goes to you, Andy, because you introduced me to it.
Well, it was so easy, folks. I was on Google Hangouts from 2012 to 2016. Then they shut that down and I moved over to Blab. I mean, I've had a live show for years, and then Blab shut down, and I just got tired of the lousy platform. So I went full in on podcasting again. I've been podcasting since 2012 as well. And then StreamYard, and I'm telling you, I've got shoes older than these founders. They launched in beta November 2018, and they grabbed a bunch of the folks that they knew in the former live stream world, host world, and we helped them out through their beta. They launched in November of 2019 fully. And I was like, I've been thinking about going back and doing a live show. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old. Maybe I'm, considerations. Gosh, it's amazing what we come up, right, to prevent ourselves from succeeding or doing something we love. But COVID, that's my silver lining. COVID, I just said, well, I'm going to get the pitch event on there for sure. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and stay in touch with people through the live stream, because folks, in video, I love talking to the camera. I know you're out there. And so with video, there's a deeper connection you can have. And for an extrovert like me who can't go out and hug in person, hug in real life, it's so important to still be able to talk to you and connect with you and hear you and find out what's going on with you. So for me, this is a wonderful way to keep that connection happening.
Well, we appreciate all of that. I mean, that's really great. Let me catch up on some of the comments because we have some great comments in here. Sean, who is someone who's discovered you, he is saying your lighting, whatever your lighting issue was, because I know you've been having a lighting issue, but whatever it is, it's somehow fixed itself. And that's sort of, sometimes that's some of the variables of the internet. Sometimes it's just, things just aren't going to work today. And, but Sean definitely noticed that your lighting has improved.
I had a disco moment. And see, folks, when you do live, you've got to be able to fly by the seat of your pants, because stuff will happen. Technology goes. So I had like disco lighting, and I don't know what was happening. And then the next episode, it got all dark, even though I had a super bright light on me, as I usually always do. And then today, because it wasn't my show and I didn't have my pattern set up, I totally forgot to put on my big light. That'll happen. They're just things that will happen, but you're going live. There's no taking it back. And it keeps the transparency and the authenticity real.
Mm-hmm. Sean also says, fall in love with the process.
Yes.
The results will come.
Yes.
Sean. If I had a Shoelicious banner to go to, we'd go to it. But you are
100%, Sean.
And Laura adds in, yes, don't compare. It's our journey. And I know that Laura is someone that you helped with the WeBank.
Yay!
And that's something that makes a big difference. Now, we know Laura. Laura comes in. She's a great friend of both of ours. And she has an incredible product. And she's just telling us a little bit. She's put it into the chat. And she's telling us a little bit about it. So because you are so interactive with us and such a great friend, I just want to make sure that I get a chance to read this. Zaze, she actually says it better than I do. But Zaze, their mission is to produce the world's finest early harvest, cold pressed, extra virgin olive oil by the hands of strong and diverse women around the world. They implement equal pay for women while being socially responsible for Mother Earth. And she's included her link in the chat. Guys, I highly recommend
go get a bottle.
You get yourself a bottle. It is a game changer.
And it's a great gift too.
It is an incredible gift. And I have my very good friend, Tony Hippolyte. What are other resources that Andy recommends for new founders, both virtual entities as well as brick and mortar entities? This is an excellent question. And I know, Andy, you have a whole bag full of answers. Maybe not the whole bag, but give us some nuggets.
Well, everything. And of course, this is the resources, is that you really need to know your numbers, everybody. It's just key. So whether you have a bookkeeper, an accountant, and if you don't, ping me. I'll send you a few resources that you can use. You must have this team on board. You also need your legal team. You don't have to spend a fortune, but LegalZoom is not enough. Maybe when you're doing your entity, all right? And a lot of times, I've got a great video about how to protect your assets. And that includes your intellectual property, your name, your brand, all the things that you need to do. But especially if you are co-founding your business. You need to have the right operating agreement in place so everybody knows the rules and engagement. If someone needs to bag out, it's all in writing. You know ahead of time what happens with the equity, everything. Get a good attorney. Also, get good insurance. So LLC, get an umbrella. Inc., get your insurance on. These are part of your dream team requirements for you to be successful. Then start learning. Do an accelerator program. There's free accelerator programs everywhere that you can apply to. Join Founder Gym. Go do through their 6-week program. Even if you're not raising money, they will up your game for how money comes into your business. What does it mean for the runway? You need to know how long every dollar is going to last. Okay. And then also customer acquisition costs and the lifetime value of customers. If you listen to Gary Vee or you're at pitch events, you always hear people say, what's your LTV CAC ratio? Or what's your LTV? What's your CAC? I have a terrific video that explains it all to you in an Andelicious way, because you need to know how much you're going to spend on marketing and what that return is going to be. So that's why you have to understand the cost of acquiring a customer. So these are more practices, Tony, than actual, but resources are also involved. I have a few law firms that don't charge an arm and a leg. I'm all about the lean machine. I'm all about bootstrapping. I really believe that you need to get your business up to a level, get customers. And unless you're doing something that's very complicated in renewable energy or bioscience, that's not going to see any funding for, any return or customers for several years, go spend the time getting your customers. Find creative ways. Go to pitch events that you can earn cash at and you do things like that. Find ways to keep so that when you do and you need to scale and you need to go and raise some money, now you have value and you're not giving away equity. Okay. There's a huge competition out there. Oh, I raised this many millions, that many millions. Don't care. How close are you to profitability and sustainability? That I do care about. How much equity are you going to be able to keep in your business because you made the sacrifices today to get those customers in, create a revenue stream, create traction, prove your MVP. That is going to make you more valuable and much easier for you to get money. Did I go on too long?
And no, fantastic. Perfect. Incredible question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony.
For that great. And again, this speaks to why I have this show, why I do this show is the connections, right? And Sean mentioned that the chef that I had on a few weeks ago, Sudi, she used Zaze, the oil, right? And my good friend Lynn Dean, she has the oil now as a result of watching the show and seeing it, and that's great. And Lynn has an incredible entrepreneurial story that is developing as we speak. So we're going to hear about that in the weeks to come. I predict on a future version of edition of the Wednesdays at 1 show. And Andy, I love your background, colors, energy, my favorite colors, great information. Let me just tell you, Lynn, this background, I've gone through it with Andy on this background. I've watched it grow and blossom and bloom, just like the colors behind. And she does a great job. And it's something that I actually recommend to people in my media training. Find a curated corner of your house. Make it yours. Show your personality. It has to be interesting, but not distracting. It has to say a little bit about you, because what do people do, right? When they're in situations like this, they're looking all over your shoulders. They're looking at, I remember there was some kind of situation where a guy had like a graphic sex book, like a Karma Sutra book that was on his shelf, but you could see it because people are looking.
Can I just put this up, Tony? I want to add
Yes.
this. Read It's About Damn Time by Arlen Hamilton. Okay. Please, please, please read this book. Phenomenal.
Outstanding advice.
Yep,
Outstanding
absolutely.
advice. So yeah, put a little personality into your background. And our cook extraordinaire, Sudi Raxajak. Hi, Andy. Love that color on you.
Thank you,
And
Sudi.
Sudi did our extraordinary cooking demo
So
a
good.
few weeks back. It was so good. I've gotten so many great comments
Oh,
from that.
it's a phenomenal show.
And we want to wish a very special Wednesdays at 1 happy birthday to Miss Sudi Raxajak. Her birthday
Sudi!
was yesterday, and here she is with us. So happy birthday, Sudi.
Happy birthday,
Thank you.
Sudi.
And we look forward to having you back on doing one of your creations, one of your culinary creations sometime in the near future. But yeah, Sean's gonna buy some, and that's how it all works, people.
That's
Get
right.
yourself out there, get active in chats, get active in communities and organizations, make yourself known. There's so many grassroots things that we as business owners can do. I can't tell you how many seminars I sit in on, how many things I go to. Now, let me just tell you, they're not all created equal, right? Anyone who tells you, yeah, buy my seminar and you're going to be in, rolling in the money in 6 months. Pay no attention to that. I would say go to as many free seminars as you can. Take something from one of them, from each of them, I should say.
Yeah.
Take something from each of them. They're not all going to really apply to you. Some of them are going to not make any sense. Some of them you're maybe not going to connect with how they're presenting, but take something.
Yep. And share your LinkedIn URL with them and connect with them on LinkedIn, because you don't know who they know. And you get someone into your network. It's amazing.
You're so right. And that's really what it's about. But for you, Andy, talk to me now, because we mentioned earlier that you do a show twice a week. Tell me, what's the mindset? Like, how did that come about? Why did you decide to do that? What is the purpose and the point of your 2 live shows? Let me just tell you, I'd say this all the time. I'm going to get you to answer. I do 1 live show a week for myself. Now, I do produce other live shows, but I do 1 live show a week for myself, and I am exhausted afterwards. I can't imagine doing 2. When I'm producing others, it's a different energy, it's a different vibe. Talk to me about your twice weekly show and what you're hoping to accomplish with it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, first of all, it's a warm up. I mean, you have to remember, I had a live show for years. I would usually have 4 or 5 people on the show as well. It was crazy. So I have the experience. I know what's involved. Excuse me. But also, I know what podcasting is like. Podcasting, you can still be in your jammies, not do your hair. Women, when you go live in the video, you're getting dolled up for the most part. The guys, they might put hoodie, a cap on, and they sit down, they're ready to go. For me, it became important and an important way to reach folks and provide startup advice and wisdom, especially for the first-time founders. So the show became a way for me to coach from the platform. So as a founder is telling their story, pulling out the nuggets and saying to the audience, okay, did you hear what he or she just said? This is important for you to remember. Here's why this worked. Here's why this didn't work. Be able to share that advice, but also at the same time to let them know it's normal. And the reason I ended up going with 2 is that I love it so much. I started off with just going once a week. I tried night. Everybody's too tired by the end of the day now, especially after COVID, to get on any live show. So I set it for 1 p.m. so I could reach West as well as East and everything in between. But also,
love 1 o'clock.
Yeah. It's easier too on me as well. But at the same time, understanding that on-demand content is a little challenging. You might get a live audience, you might not. You don't know. People are busy, but you're creating important content for folks. And to me, that's what makes my heart sing. Being able to showcase what a founder's been through, bring an expert on. We had a phenomenal Pinterest expert yesterday that showed us exactly how to get on Pinterest and capture the fact that 83% of the people who are on Pinterest are purchasing from a pin. they saw on Pinterest, that kind of information.
Mm.
Investors coming on and giving us incredible advice for fundraising, but also representation of a founder who has figured out a business model in a marketplace that could help you, first-time founder, newbie founder, go, oh, I didn't think of that. They figured it out. Now you are able to jump with that information. And it became such a delight. And to answer your question as to how do I do it, I'm a systems and procedures gal. So what I've learned from having podcasts and live shows before is everything becomes a process. And you know that in your business, brick and mortar or virtual online business, you have to have the routines, the systems and procedures for everything you do. So there's the invite to the guest. There's the confirmation. Then there is, how do I get their headshots, bios, links, etc. Then there's the show notes, the artwork, the posting. You have to understand these live shows, you can't post on LinkedIn or Facebook any sooner than 7 days out. And I'm still figuring out a lot of the other capturing parts. I hope to have text message alerts folks can sign up for, all these things. So, and I like too, because there's so many great founders out there that I want to interview. I had to have at least 2 shows a week because I was just like, oh, I would be booked till September if I were doing it once a week. So there you go.
Andy, I think on that note, we're going to wrap up, but
I just want to say,
thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing,
do.
Eric, is that the other thing too is by inviting my live audience to share their business in the comment threads, their website, their URL, their one-liner, because sometimes your website, your name, business name, we're clueless. We bring that up in the screen just like you did for Zaze, and boom, we get to celebrate and amplify and spotlight someone who's out there, and you never know who's going to see your business when you're live. You just do not know, or through the replay later.
Well, you are so right about that. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for inspiring me because I started my show. I'm on my 17th show. You have your 60th show coming up very soon.
In the hopper yesterday.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so you're already speeding ahead.
April.
60 shows. I can't even. I have like limped and crawled and fought through my 18 shows, and there has been no process. Not all of those great things that you do for your shows. I've done none of that for my show. I'm not proud of that, but you are so right. Even just working with you and getting you prepared to come on my show, it was so simple. You had all of the material. I just had to take it and plug it in. And I really appreciate that. So,
and I appreciate you, Eric, because you helped me make my show a show. Everybody, you know how bored you are with the Zoom events out there with no great conversation, no music, no moments like Eric's done throughout here. You got to entertain, edutain, valuetain.
So again, Andy, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. I'm going to have you hang out in the green room.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching today. I so appreciate you taking time in the middle of your day and sharing your comments and your attention and all of the great contributions you have to my show. It's been such a great journey, and it's just getting started. I hope to one day be at show number 60, and I hope all of you guys are there. So until next Wednesday at 1, I will see all of you. Be safe, and I will see you guys next week, Wednesday at 1.